All right, welcome to the channel. I'm doing some drywall today. I want to show you guys how to mud and tape an inside corner and an outside corner. So I've got this little basement bathroom here, but mostly taped. But I'll show you how to tape an inside corner. First thing you want to do is get all of your taper joints and butt joints taped first, because that'll just work out better to have the corner tape be on top. These taper joints, the tape is deeper into the wall, so it just makes sense to have those done before you put the corner tape on. I'll show you how I do it with the banjo. I'll show one short section without the banjo. All right, with the banjo, it puts the right amount of mud on, so this is my preferred method of doing it, but like I said, I will show you a short section if you don't have one of these. We've already got our taper joints taped, so the corner will go on top of everything. So you want to do just one part of the corner at a time. You don't want to get all the parts of the intersection up there, because if you do that as you run your tool on it, you're going to just pull the other tape around. So if I was doing all the room at once, I would get like all the vertical corners that I could until my banjo ran out of mud, get those done, and then come back and do the horizontals, or vice versa. For the taping portion, I use this small corner tool, and when we get to the finish coats, we got a wider corner tool. So I start like about 6 inches down, 4 to 6 inches down, and I push up, and that kind of secures the tape into the corner. If you just start at the top and come down, sometimes you'll pull the tape down. So you want to get it nice and stuck. Sometimes you might end up getting a little bit of a wrinkle in the tape, and if you get that, you can just go like a couple feet down and push the tape down with your fingers. Just stretch it back out. I usually just run the corner tool in there one time, and then I'll use my 4-inch taping knife. Get a feathered edge on the side. You don't want to push so hard that you squeeze all the mud out from behind the tape. Otherwise, if you do that, the tape's not going to stick very well. All right, we'll get this one done with the banjo. You want to be very gentle on that intersection there, that you don't pull this other tape away from the corner. All right, so if you don't have a banjo and you got to do it all by hand, I just take my 4-inch knife, smear mud in the corner just like that. You got to do both edges of the corner. All right, then I usually start in the corner, like in the very inside corner, the tape, and you just push it into the corner with your fingers. Put some pressure on it with your corner tool, and you can rip it right off. Then same deal, you're gonna go about 4 inches from the corner, go backwards, get it stuck. Just like that. Now we'll start doing these outside corners. These, they do make tools that will put the mud on the corner for you. I don't have those, so we're gonna do it all with the 4-inch knife. First thing you wanna do is get your measurement and cut it. You just cut it with some tin snips. All right, so I just pulled the measurement. It's 81 1/4, and I marked it with the tin snips. I don't use a pencil on this. And then just cut to the corner, both directions. Just like that. All right, and the next step is just slapping a bunch of mud on the wall. If you're doing like an end wall like this, I'll mud both of them at the same time. Now we're doing square corners on this one, so you want your sheetrock to be kind of even, how comes all the way to the corner. If you're doing round corners, you'd want this sheetrock cut back so the corner is open. That way you have room for that radius. These corners have they're like equal angle. Some of these paper corners will have an unequal angle, and you'll want to put the longer or the wider side of this metal over the raw edge of your drywall. So just make sure you pay attention to that. And there's different manufacturers of these tape-on corners. Huh. There's a height difference there. I didn't measure both of them because I thought they were so close together.
It was this corner's a little lower.
Oh, that rock's down. Yeah, okay. You don't want those super tight because you'll get a bow in it and it'll crack eventually. Put a decent amount of pressure on there to make sure that it's squished on there, and then you just kind of gotta look at it and make sure that it's not twisted or out of square. You can actually fix a lot of these corners by positioning them so it looks good. You just use your 4-inch knife and squeeze the mud out. All right, on these outside corners, this first go, it's gonna look far from perfect. And even after the second coat, because these corners are kind of out of ways, there's a lot of mud that goes there. And that first coat's gonna shrink a lot and you're gonna think, oh man, it looks terrible. But it comes around after the second or third coat. So, all right, we'll get our topping coat on tomorrow. So I'll check in with you then. All right, so we're gonna do our first topping coat on this inside and outside corner. Again, like yesterday when we were taping, I like to get all of the tapered joints done first. And if it's a big enough room, this ideally will set up a little bit. They're still a little bit soft, so I'm gonna have to be careful. But yeah, once those taper joints are done, then we can start doing all of the inside corners. I'm going to use my 12-inch knife and just smear some mud on both sides of the corner, and then use my wider corner tool to smooth it out. So I just start deep in the corner, kind of smear it out like that, and then scrape it down the wall. And about where that ends, I'll do it again. get to like the very corner in the ceiling, I like to get all three directions started. I'm putting a decent amount of pressure on the corner tool when I do this. And for the very corner, I kind of like swoop my 12-inch knife around like that. And I'm putting pressure on the part of the knife that's away from the corner. That way you get a nice feathered edge and you don't get much of a ridge towards the corner. So right over that taper joint's where I gotta kind of lighten up. Since that's still soft, you'll pull the mud away. Sometimes you gotta go back with the corner tool. Just smooth out that corner there. That's pretty much it for the inside corners on this first coat, and it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's the first coat. You need more mud for sure. And this stuff, as it dries, it's going to shrink and give you little holes. So the second coat's where it really starts coming together. Now we're going to do these outside corners. They're super simple. I just use the 12-inch knife. You want to make sure that you're getting pressure all the way down to that corner bead, but make sure you get to a feathered edge away from the corner. I don't worry about little stuff like that too much because like this first coat's going to shrink a lot. Now what is helpful is to get these big chunks of mud off the corner because they're not going to dry, and when they break off it leaves a big old gaping hole. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just run my knife up there and try to get some of that mud off. And that little bit will sand off easy. Alright, might get a little loud because the kids are riding sleeping bags down the stairs, but we're on to the next stage here where we're going to be just sanding real quick. I'm going to do most of it with this screen sander, basically just trying to knock these ridges off. And you want to sand these corners where the mud got thick and not just try to break it off. If you break it off, it sometimes will leave a big old hole, so it's best just to sand it. And then if I have to, in these corners, I'll get a little hand sponge sander and just try to like get rid of that kind of stuff, make it as flat as possible. But yeah, get it all sanded. We're ready for coat number 2. All right, so second coat's on, it's all dry. I'm getting ready to do some sanding now. And on this stage, I like to use these sponge sanders so I can really visually inspect everything. On the first sanding, the one I did yesterday, I just use a pole sander, and that has a risk of leaving some gouges and stuff, but it doesn't matter after the first coat. So this one, there's a good chance there's a lot of this room that I don't need to do any more mud, so I want to get it sanded as close to finish as possible. And I like to use a light as I'm sanding because that kind of makes everything show up. You can see every little imperfection. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw a mask on, get this sanded, and I'll show you the final coat. Whew. Well, that's no fun at all, but it's done. And I've shown this in my other drywall videos, but what I do as I'm going along with the sander and the light is I just mark with a pencil the areas that need mud, and you can see that there's only a few spots in the whole room that need it. And on these outside and inside corners, there's really not much to do, just a little bit of touch up. When you are sanding that inside corner, you want to be careful how much pressure you put into the corner. You want to get a nice crisp line there, but if you run it too hard up against there, this edge is going to make a groove on your other surface there, so you want to be careful with that. Getting at the intersection there can be really tricky. It's just a bunch of little short strokes trying to get it cleaned up. This one needs a little attention. The other ones are a lot better. And I've got some other tricks I can show you after it's primered, how we can make those look really nice. So I'm gonna slap some mud on the wall, and I'll check in with you tomorrow for the final sand. All right, we're to the final sand. All I'm gonna do is go around with my light. I can kind of see where I made the pencil mark, so that's where the last coat was. So I just gotta sand these little ridges down and it'll be ready for texture. All right, it's all been finished sanded. Conrad got it all primed. It's looking good. One last thing I want to show you before we close out here. Sometimes you can have a few imperfections in your corners and it can be taken care of with some caulking. See, there's a little bit of a hole there at the top of that outside corner. In this corner here, you can see a little bit of imperfection there, and you can smooth all of that out with some caulking. like that, a little bit of caulking, you can smooth out those imperfections, and that is how you tape inside and outside corners. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll answer them the best I can. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.